The historic red bungalow in Mission Hills is no more. It was demolished today, and we have reaction.
There's always beds available.
This mayor comes to this building every damn day working my butt off to make sure that we can get more people off the streets.
Are there shelter beds available on any given day? Mayor Todd Gloria says yes, though our reporting found otherwise.
Proposals to put more rules on these rogue vendors in San Diego.
Southwestern College, the South Bay's only option for higher education, is growing and changing a stigma it's had for years. That story coming up.
Things move pretty fast in the jungle, except for one animal. Our marching band's marching orders to
save the swamp.
CBS 8 News, live at 6, starts now. An update tonight to a story we first brought you earlier this week. Despite protests, the iconic red bungalow in Mission Hills is gone. Good evening, I'm Jesse Pagan.
And I'm Kirsten Holmes. Carlo and Marcella have the night off. People in the neighborhood worried a developer was going to demolish the home, which has a history dating back about 100 years. CBS 8's Brian White is in Mission Hills for us tonight, where that worry became a reality.
It's really sad. Literally within 2 hours, you had 100 years of history gone.
Dozens of neighbors in Mission Hills looked on as the Little Red House, as it was called by locals, was torn down to the ground in a matter of hours.
This, I don't know, 100-year-old historical building just getting crushed. It was really sad. I mean, you had about 50 people just watching in disbelief.
The so-called red bungalow was a craftsman-style duplex, complete with clinker bricks and low-pitched roofs, built in 1912.
It was an icon to the community, and not just a beautiful building, but a lot of memories here.
Barry Hager is an advisory director for the Mission Hills Heritage Organization. They tried to save the building by having it designated as historic. But at a hearing last week, the Historic Resources Board did not agree.
It's a huge loss for the community, and there's been a real outpouring of emotion, especially after the hearing. And we've just seen a lot of kind of grief in the community to lose this beautiful architectural gem.
Save the Red House! Save the Red House!
Protesters made their voices heard this week in a last-ditch effort to save the building, but it was not enough. The property was acquired in 2021 by a developer based in Los Angeles. I couldn't confirm what they plan to do with the site, but some neighbors believe a multi-story housing complex is planned.
I think it's probably, 60, 70 units, no underground parking, and it's going to be an ugly 7-8 story building that sort of ruins the character of the neighborhood.
But others I talked to in the neighborhood are glad to see the chance of new housing going up, and believe it should be encouraged because the need is so great.
The process is over. There's a very diligent process, multiple reviews. I don't believe anybody from the city of San Diego or the Historic Resource Board necessarily designated it as historic. And at this point, it is time for the community to move on and welcome our new neighbors.
In Mission Hills, Brian White, CBS 8.
It might be fall, but it felt more like summer outside the last couple of days.
Absolutely. Tonight, a heat advisory is in effect for parts of the county. Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis here now with a first look at the microclimate forecast. Carlene, I broke a sweat today walking outside.
Good.
I know.
We shouldn't be alone. Everybody should be breaking a sweat out there.
We're all sweaty.
It's definitely warm, and we have Santa Ana winds to thank for that. So we are into those months where we start to get those offshore winds picking up. So the heat, it has returned. You had highs today across inland areas that were in the 90s. That put us above seasonal and also put us in some territory for that heat advisory. So the National Weather Service did issue that at noon today, and the highs were reached in the 90s for Fallbrook, much the same for Escondido, as well as Valley Center. You had 93 degrees for La Mesa today, 98 for Ramona, and then we also had those 80s right along the coast. Heat advisory will keep going through 7 p.m. for tomorrow. So daytime highs tomorrow will remain in that 90 to 100 degree range across inland areas, mainly impacting along the 15 for North County and then towards the east of it for most of our areas. So you're looking at 95 degrees for Valley Center, 91 tomorrow for Fallbrook, also 93 degrees for Escondido, 92 for La Mesa. So still locked into the heat, and then things start to change up in the forecast by next week. So more details on that coming up. Kirsten, Jesse.
Thank you for that, Carlene. Well, tonight, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria is standing by comments he made about shelter beds always being available for unhoused individuals. Our reporting has found that that isn't always the case.
CBS 8's Kelly Hessedal is at City Hall, where she questioned the mayor about this during his monthly media briefing today.
Well, the mayor maintains there are shelter beds available and more beds are coming. Yet what we found in following two unhoused individuals who were looking for shelter beds is that they couldn't find one. Now, we were there as they waited outside the homelessness response center for hours, only to be turned away. I asked the mayor about that today, and here's what he said.
I've seen some of that reporting. These are individual circumstances, and it's difficult to know from the outside, just based on the limited reporting that was provided, what those individual circumstances are. What I would tell you is you can look at the city's dashboard for our shelter system. You can see on any given day, we do have some beds available. Not always a lot. On certain days, it's very few. There are a lot of challenges on all sides where this is concerned. But the truth is that we continue to rapidly expand the amount of shelter beds that we have in our city, and my expectation is that they get used.
But the mayor says it is never the case that across the system, that includes the 20th and B safe sleeping sites, safe parking, and congregate and non-congregate shelters, that all beds are taken. He says the city uses something called a coordinated entry process. So he says you can't just show up at a shelter and be accommodated. He says they ask people to go through housing navigators and caseworkers so that they have housing with services to address the underlying causes of homelessness. Now, he points out sometimes people may turn down certain beds if it's a top bunk or if they want a senior-only option. Now, the two people CBS 8 spoke to eventually did find a place to stay, but through non-city-run shelters. Both found them through private organizations. Meanwhile, the mayor was also asked to respond to recent criticism made by local NBA legend Bill Walton about his handling of the homelessness crisis.
I don't pay a lot of attention to critics and criticism. I get the job done, and we're not mission accomplished, far from. But this mayor comes to this building every damn day working my butt off to make sure that we can get more people off the streets.
And according to the San Diego Housing Commission, as of this morning, there were 28 beds available. Now, I should point out that another safe sleeping site is about to open in Balboa Park, the O parking lot, which will include 400 tents. It can house up to 800 people. We are going to continue to follow this topic, however. CBS 8 is going to continue to tell the stories of unhoused individuals who may encounter challenges trying to find a shelter bed. Kelly Hessedal, CBS 8.
Okay, so the San Diego Homelessness Outreach Task Force is getting more money to fight the crisis in our area. Today, city leaders and Assemblymember Brian Menshine announced they're getting $750,000 from the state. The program helps people that are already homeless by providing housing and services to help them fight mental illness or drug addiction.
Cracking down on the sidewalk vendors is one step closer to approval. Today, the Community and Neighborhood Services Committee approved amendments to the existing sidewalk vendor ordinance to help close a loophole in it. CBS 8's Abby Black is live to explain the proposal and the mayor's support tonight. Abby?
Jesse, we heard from plenty of folks today up at City Hall in support of this ordinance and the proposed amendments. This includes the Gaslamp Quarter, East Village, and Little Italy businesses, along with the legal vendors. But there was a lot of noise from the street performers who are adamantly against this proposal. Hot dog vendors who say they have a permit share how they've been attacked by violent vendors.
As a Hispanic person selling hot dogs, it hasn't been easy for me. The interference from these torturous illegal vendors has put my family almost to keys.
Letty Soto and her husband Peter joined the mayor's support for stricter rules on the existing sidewalk vendor ordinance.
But the continuing operation of unpermitted vendors, folks who are not following the law under the regulation, must be addressed. And certainly hiding behind the First Amendment for some of this commercial activity is something that we can clarify.
Last year, the council approved regulations to have tougher enforcement on vendors, but it excluded expressive activities. Some rogue vendors found a loophole and used free speech as a reason to not get a permit or abide by the new rules.
How about everybody else get a permit to talk then? Because you're talking about free speech.
Today, the City Council's Community and Neighborhood Services Committee approved amendments to the existing street vendor ordinance that now includes expressive speech, which means people like jewelry makers, artists, and buskers, those are people who perform for donations, are not exempt.
We're going to lose our livelihood.
The proposal also includes regulations on how loud performances can be, umbrella use, and designating free speech locations. Joe Dreams, who went viral for his street performances when the Padres went to the playoffs last year, says he's tired of being harassed.
The free speech zone is across the street, but across the street is away from all the traffic, and so it's kind of like just being there with the railroad tracks.
The amendments now go to the full council for a vote. We're told that could happen by the end of the year. The Sotos hope that this happens fast.
We can't wait another year. Our business is suffering.
This proposal also gets rid of written and verbal warnings on the first violation. In fact, permitted vendors could face a $100 fine and unpermitted vendors would face a $250 fine. And if it's deemed that it poses a health or safety concern, you could be shut down, and the city, the police, and code enforcement could seize all of your equipment. Jesse?
Now, Abby, we know this has been a topic of debate for quite a bit. So at this point, who is doing the enforcement and what challenges do they face on this?
The police do, and as well as code enforcement. During the mayor's briefing today, we also heard from the police chief on this issue, and he says that these illegal vendors make it extremely difficult to cite them. He says oftentimes they do not cooperate and they will not give their name, so he hopes that these amendments will change their tune.
All right, Abby Black live for us tonight. Abby, thank you.
The largest healthcare worker strike in U.S. history will enter its third and final day tomorrow. Thousands of workers with Kaiser Permanente walked off the job again at 6 this morning for the second day in a row. They're asking for a cost of living raise because of inflation and better staffing and working conditions. Kaiser says negotiators are making progress.
San Diego high school students are honoring the life of Captain Jennifer Moreno, an alumna and fallen Latina warrior who was killed in combat a decade ago.
Yeah, tomorrow marks exactly 10 years since her death. Today, students watched Ultimate Sacrifices, Captain Jennifer Moreno, a documentary about her life and service in the military. Captain Moreno grew up in Logan Heights. She graduated from San Diego High School in 2006. She served as a nurse in the Army and was killed while helping a fellow soldier in Afghanistan in 2013.
Still ahead, District 48 Congressman Darrell Issa talks about this week's shakeup in the House.
Plus, national leaders and the public gather at San Francisco City Hall to say goodbye to California Senator Dianne Feinstein.
And up next, how the South Bay's only college is expanding its campus and working to change its image.